Okay, so we'll start with psychosexual theory, and then we'll blend into psychoanalytic, and then the defense mechanisms. So psychosexual, there are two like mnemonics that you can utilize to remember them, to remember the stages. And those are onions and potatoes look great. So oral, anal, phallic, latent, genital. The other one, if that one doesn't hang true with you, old age prisoners love grapes. Same phases, same stages, just a matter of what will be able to recall and be what you need at that given moment. So first stage that we're looking at is oral stage. Age that we're looking at here, 0 to 1 years old. And so what does this entail? So the infant is primarily focused on survival and how they can sustain life. So they don't have the cognition of being like, well, I'm going to die, but all of their interactions occur through their mouth, which oral. So the rooting and sucking reflux are important in their development, since all of their communications and styles are through their mouth and sustaining life, because the feeding happens through the mouth. The mouth is vital to eating, and the infant derives pleasure from oral stimulation through gratifying activities such as tasting and sucking. And those that are curious, that Word document is going to be sent. And remember, please keep your mic muted throughout the entire thing, so that way the recording does not get choppy and or grainy. So the primary conflicts, so Freud identified conflicts and all of these things that need to be accomplished, or goals or milestones to advance on to the next, and if done incorrectly, is said to be quote unquote a failure. So the weaning process here is the main goal. So what does this look like? The child must become less dependent on their caretakers to survive. So rather than getting their survival from the mother, the caretaker, they start to get it from outside source. But keep in mind, 1-year-old's not eating prime rib or steak or anything, but they start to get a little bit more of a connection beyond that. So the fixation here, or the thing that can hold them up, is when the child has become dependent on their caregiver so much that when it comes to survival later in life, they are dependent. They're dependent on others to survive. So they almost replay this stage in their actual life, which could mean becoming dependent on substances, relationships, exhibiting aggressive behavior towards others, with the caveat when they feel their needs are not being met. So you might have encountered a couple of clients when things don't go right for them or things are going south, they start using substances and stuff like that. So this can predicate and often lead to problems with alcohol, smoking, nail biting, or finger picking. So anything that has to deal with like oral sensation. So you'll see some people just like bite their nails, so bite their cuticles and stuff, and it's like, oh, are you nervous? No, I'm totally fine. And it's just something that they've derived through when things are coming to stressful or they feel like things are outside of what they can control. They just go to their mouth to end up coping with this. Has anyone read his previous videos? So with that, once you go from the oral, the next stage, or the and or age within the mnemonic, is the anal stage. So what does this look like? This is from 1 to 3 years old. So within this, Freud believed that the primary focus of libido was on controlling bladder and bowel movements. So this is all about toilet training. So with that being said, the main conflict is, you guessed it, toilet training. When you think about the stages and phases, this is going to be all around the child's reaction or parents' reaction to the child being toilet trained. So the child has to learn how to control his or her bodily needs. So this is where people can start to get a sense of control within their life and what their preference and what they need or what they don't need. And a lot of times developing this control leads to a sense of accomplishment because they are doing something and taking an initiative on their own, and independence. They don't have to depend on someone else to help them or take them whenever they deem necessary. So success in this is dependent on the way the parent / caregiver reacts or approaches toilet training. So parents that utilize praise and or rewards for toileting at appropriate times and encourage positive outcomes, as well as the child feels supported and confident, they will tend to have positive results / success in this stage. So with that being said, if you can imagine, the more kind somebody is within that, the easier it is for them to going to be able to react. So just a different way to say it, positive experiences during this stage serve as the basis for how people will feel when trying new things. So either yourself or somebody you know or a client that you've seen, when they're a little more antsy or like reserved around trying behaviors that they haven't done or things that didn't go very well for them, they tend to be a little standoffish and they're like, no, totally not going to do this. So another thing to keep in mind is that the person will feel more confident, become competent, and more creative in the activities that they choose to do. Because when you have more freedom and people trusting you and supporting you, the easier it is for you to try new things. So failure would be when the parents provide punishment, discouraging words or disturbing words, degrading words, and even shame /ridicule the child for not using the toilet, or in other words, having accidents. So if you can imagine, this type of environment breeds totally different results. So harsh environments around toilet training can cause people to be more anxious or lack confidence when engaging in new behaviors, which can be predicated on the person who is assisting the child at the time. Or if we want to take it a step further, people are more willing to quote unquote fail or try new activities around people who are more kind or supportive. So in the study prep, even you've probably noticed like, I'm totally not going to study with this person anymore because every time I get a question wrong, they give me a 30-minute lecture on why I'm in the wrong field, or like I can't just get it done or anything like that. So it's just based on, a lot of these stages and phases are based on what is played out in your actual life. So rearing and things can dictate and predicate adult behavior. So the fixation or result or impact within the child's life is an inappropriate parental results can result in two different outcomes. So what are these outcomes, you may be wondering? So if the parents' approach is too lenient and anal, expulsive, personality can develop. So what is that? An anal expulsive personality is the person tends to be more messy, wasteful, or destructive with their own things, feelings, own things or feelings. This person can become easily angered by someone telling them what to do. So if you can imagine, if no one's been telling this person what they need to be doing, when someone starts telling him what to do, you're going to see some pushback. Well, why are you telling me what to do now? No one was there for me before. Or what the heck is this? This is dumb. I can't believe this. This is erratic. This is exotic. And an easy way to remember this is explosive equals explosive. So when you see anal explosive, think of the word explosive. Like, regardless of what happens, it's going to destroy something or be everywhere. So if someone's a little more messy, be like an explosive went off. However, if the parents' approach was too short or, well, too short / rigid, or they started toileting the child too early, they can develop an anal retentive personality. So an anal retentive is when the person is stringent, orderly, rigid, excessive, and overly controlling. So within this, when someone is held to high standards, they may place them onto other people or expect more out of them than is possible. So these are people that are super duper successful, but this is where you hear this person saying like, oh, wow, that person is so anal. Or wow, this person's super, yeah, it's anal. This person can't really take critique from anyone else. And that's because when someone is held to high standards, they hold everyone else to high standards, as well as the fact that if someone has been on your tail the whole time and being overbearing with you, you're going to perpetuate that on other people and say, well, if I went through this or I've been through this, why can't other people do it? And we often see this in studying, actually, of being like, wow, I passed on the first time and only did this. Why aren't other people doing it? And then they perpetuate or tell people about it, and then the people feel bad about their process. Bad moves. But with that, that is where you just own your prep and know that whatever works for you is not going to work for everyone else, and that's okay. Why? Because it's your prep, no one else's. You'll be in the exam room, they'll be in their exam room, so figure out what works for you and then go from there. So the phallic is the primary focus of libido is on the genitals. So at this age, the child begins to discover the difference between male and female. So physiologically, what does that mean? So this is where boys begin to view their father as rivals or competition for the mother's presence and attention. And Freudian said this is the Oedipus complex. And what does that actually look like? This is wanting possess the mother and a desire to replace the father. So what does this look like? Becoming distressed when the mother is not around. In extreme cases, like a Norman Bates. For those that don't know, Norman Bates was like a character based off of Ed Gein, who was a serial killer who wanted the mother's affection so much that he kills mom's boyfriend and then subsequently kills her, keeps her body around, and actually dresses up as the mom. So that's a super duper extreme case, but definitely not the norm, I would say. But those that know that, that's a huge example on how to picture that. So Freud thought, it's not Freudian, so Freud thought that a male child who sees a naked woman for the first time will believe that her penis was cut off. So the child fears that their father will do the same for them, or same to them, for wanting to replace him / being with the mother. So this is a concept that we call castration anxiety. So he's afraid of being castrated, so he conforms and gets out of that. So in the female realm, we have the electro complex. And what is this? This is the female's desire for her father, but notices that she does not have a penis and becomes distressed. So kind of the opposite of boy sees female without one. It's like, wow, I'm in trouble. Female sees one without one and says, wow, I'm in trouble. So the girl begins to resolve her anxiety by repressing the desire for her father and substitutes it for, substitutes the wish to have a penis with a wish to have a baby. So starts to cope and connect with the mother more. And with that, we fall into the fourth stage, which is our latent stage, which is 6 years old to puberty. And what does this entirely look like? This is when the superego, or the super ideal of society, continues to develop, while the id becomes suppressed. And I'll explain those concepts a little more in depth, but at that current moment, that is what we would be looking at. So children begin to develop social skills, values, and relationships with peers as well as adults outside of their own family. So kids will develop relationships within their family a lot easier than they do with outside. So this is when stranger danger starts to get challenged, and we actually start getting this. So the development of ego and superego contribute to this stage being calmer than previous and later stages. Libido is turned off and channeled towards developing interpersonal relationships. So within this, the latent periods of time of exploration in which sexual energies are repressed and dormant. So the main conflict here is development of a social network / peer group. You start gaining a sense of self. So the fixation here, immaturity and an inability to form fulfilling relationships as an adult. So when someone is rejected or too anxious to try new things, thus they will isolate from building relationships and or risking the chance for rejection again. So this is more or less identity versus role confusion in another theory. Does anyone know what theory that's from? I know I do. That is our good old boy, Erickson. There we go. Rosen knew. All right, so the fifth stage is the genital stage, and this is from puberty to death. So what's happening here is the onset of puberty causes the libido to become active and rev to be satisfied. So the individual develops a strong sense of interest in the opposite sex / the same sex, depending on their sexual preference. So or in earlier stages, the sexual energy was focused on their own self-interest / needs, such as connection, survival, toilet training, etc. Sense of connection with others, the well-being of others is considered here. So they start trying to go beyond themselves as well as their immediate family, and they start getting connections and become sexually active and experimenting with what enjoys here. So if there was success in previous stages, someone should be well balanced and have a sense of connection in a specific sub system, meaning they have people they can count on, they have intimacy lined up and modeled. So the main conflict here is to establish a balance between the various areas of life. So Freud believed that the ego and superego were formed in function at this point to help the person out. So within that, you need to get within what that looks like. The person is out to sense of connection and partner that they can continue developing with. So that is the psychosexual stages. Any questions on that before I get into the psychoanalytic? No. Okay. So within the psychoanalytic theory, Freud believed that a person can be seen as a product of their past, and treatment involves dealing with the repressed material in the unconscious, or through like catharsis. So catharsis is just bringing back suppress things to the focus. So personality arises because of attempts to resolve conflicts between the unconscious, sexual, and aggressive impulses, and the societal demands to restrain / or keep them in check. To resist impulse. So the key thing that we'll go over now is 3 levels of the mind. So the first level is the conscious mind. So what does that look like? This consists of all of the thoughts that we are focused on in the now / where our attention is right now. So this could be how your chair feels, how your room feels, how my voice sounds, how you're currently feeling. Are your hands dry, or are your hands not dry? Are you hungry? Are you not hungry? Etc. So this is all of the information that a client, that a person is paying attention to at a given moment. So these are all the thoughts and perceptions that we are processing information through. So meaning, wow, this is a decent amount of presentation. Wow, this is going well. This is going quickly type deal. So this is the small amount of mental information we know about and is actually able to be on our mind at a single time. So like I said, a couple of examples is this room is warm. I am entirely full from dinner. I am hungry for the cake in the fridge, etc. So a way that I tend to tell people to remember this is the wake and fully functional mind. No hesitation and all of those things. So once we get past that level, then we go into the pre-conscious. So what does the pre-conscious look like? This is all of the information outside of a client's attention, but readily available if needed. So these are all of the thoughts and feelings that we can bring into the consciousness if we tried to. Meaning, wow, I hope my parents are okay on the drive home. Or, what is my mom's phone number? Or, wow, Freudian theory. Oh, okay, I understand that, or I recall that. Or, wow, my tire just exploded. How do I change that? Oh, okay, I know how to do this. But it's not something you actively think about all the time. Be like, oh yeah, this is how I change a tire. So these are the things that we could be aware if we need to, or if we tried to. And like I said, a couple of examples. How to change a tire. Mother / significant person's phone number. The passcode to my employer's office, etc. So a way to keep this in mind is remembering that it's not awake within us, but with effort can be. So then it leads us into the unconscious mind. And these are the thoughts, feelings, and desires and memories of which individuals have no awareness of, but they influence every aspect of their day-to-day life. Meaning, wow, I really like to help people. It doesn't really stem and is not explainable of like why, but it's just a outright thing of, wow, this is something that I've just always known. So these things we are unaware of and cannot be brought to the conscious mind without great deals of effort. So it'd take a lot of reflection, a lot of work, and saying like, why do I actually feel this certain type of way? So these things are often too frightening or painful for someone to acknowledge, and thus they repress them, which is a defense mechanism that we will talk about later on. But a couple of examples here. So not wanting to be around dogs and not knowing why. However, when I was a child, I was attacked by two of them, and I do not remember. So I just have an unprecedented fear of being around dogs. Not sure why, but when I was a kid, got attacked. So I'm like, whoop, my unconscious mind's like, yeah, you should definitely not be around a dog. I just don't know why. Another example is when engaging in a relationship, the person tends to keep to themselves and only speak up after the situation is over. However, when they were a child, they were abused and told to never express themselves because it does not matter. So being told that type of information tends to change and mold the person's perception of what they're actually able to do. So the three components of personality that help drive the defense mechanisms, because after we do that, it's basically going to be all defense mechanism chat. And then we have questions related to that. So the first level is the id, which I tell people to remember as the impulsive decision. Or I do if I want, meaning ID, I do if I want, and ID for impulsive decision making. So the basis of this is that it operates at an unconscious level according to the pleasure principle. So gratification is the basic driving force on decision making. So instinctual energy that contains biological urges such as impulse towards survival, sex, and aggression. So within this, these things are typically present at birth and helps the young child / person get their needs met. So there are two different types of urges. So two types of urges. So within this, we have the survival, which helps the person survive, directs life, sustaining activities such as breathing, eating, and sex for reproductive purposes, not just to satisfied, and energy is created by energy that is created and utilized in this stage is libido. So these urges are essential for life sustaining and are present to help the continuation of the species. So then we have our destructive, which is more of our like evil type one. So these urges are a set of destructive forces present in all human beings. So when this energy is directed outward towards others, it is seen as aggression or violence. When it is directed towards self, it is considered self-harm. So the person has an unconscious desire to die, but the life instinct largely repels this urge. So an example here is a person with a a person who has experienced a traumatic event / abuse tend to reenact past situations without even realizing it. So some just examples to overview this is a baby will cry to get their needs met, / a young child will have a fit to get something they want. So within this, the baby crying to get their needs met equals survival / child having a fit equals destructive, or someone eats a donut at work even though they are on a diet. They did not even consider the thought of the diet. So kind of impulsive on that end. And third example, which would be a teenager wants a pair of shoes. However, they cannot afford them, so they steal them. So they don't really think about what they're doing, they just go ahead and pull the trigger anyway. Which leads us into the second component, which is the ego. So a couple ways that I had people to remember this: evaluate before go, or taking a little bit of gift from our movie Frozen, but let it go. So that's exactly what the ego looks to do. Tends to bring about a lot more concrete decision making. So it's the component that manages the conflict between the id or impulsive decision making and the constraints of the real world. So what's appropriate here? The ego's goal is to satisfy the need / demand of the id while keeping in mind the consequences. So some of the parts of the unconscious are part of the ego, while others are conscious and preconscious. So the ego operates on the reality principle. So what is that? So that is the awareness that gratification has to be delayed in order to accommodate the demands of the real world. So the ego's role is to prevent the id from gratifying its impulses in a socially/societally inappropriate manner, which leads us into the two types of ego reactions, which are one, the ego syntonic and ego dysyntonic. So ego syntonic are behaviors that are in sync or socially acceptable according to the ego. Ego dysyntonic are behaviors that are dysync or not socially acceptable according to the ego. So ego dysyntonic involves guilt-free behaviors because the ego is comfortable with the decision. An ego dysyntonic involves guilt or guilt-ridden behaviors because the ego is bothered or uncomfortable with the specific behavior or behaviors. So, which then leads us into ego strength. So, what is the ego strength? This is the ability of the ego to effectively deal with the demands of the id, ego, and superego, as well as reality. So, there's too much and too little. So, too much ego strength leads to rigid or stubborn behavior, and then too little leads to feeling torn or flippant when placed in a decision making situation. So an example here would be that a teenager realizes that he doesn't have enough money to buy a pair of shoes, so he buys a different pair that he can afford. So if you remember in the previous example, the teenager wanted to steal. In this example, the teenager's not trying to steal. He's actually thinking about it and saying, hey, I can't afford this pair that I want, but I can use this pair. So remember the person about the donuts in the previous thing. So the person sees donuts in the break room at work and decides whether they want to stick with their diet or eat one. Or they eat a smaller piece of the donut to satisfy the id, but continue with their dieting goal. So not practice entire asceticism, but just mild asceticism. So with this, we go into the third component, which is the superego. So the superego is basically saying you can't have it. And it tries to save the moral and values of the person. So think of a superhero. They're sacrificing everything that they need and want for the basis of what other people can do. So this is basically the moral component of personality, and consists of all the moral standards learned from parents, society, and other influences. So this is the bout that somebody has, and it forces the ego to conform not only to reality, but the ideas of morality. Hence, it causes individuals to feel guilty when they go against society's rules. So that is where we see that it operates on the morality principle, which is the gauge of right and wrong that are accepted by the individual or group that the person is a part of. The main influences are the person's caregiver, / parents and their community. So the superego is made up of the conscious mind, preconscious, and unconscious. The person's ideals are framed by the people, environment, and ideologies that they align with, which then leads us into the ego ideal and the conscience. So the ego ideal, or pride, is the idea that people have what they should, that the people have what they should be like, and or they are just acting out the ideas and roles that they were assigned to, such as, example, everyone in your family is a lawyer, so you feel like you have to become one. So if someone tells you that you would be a good social worker because you like to help people, so you do. And then the other, the conscience, is our view on what is considered to be wrong. So you can think of it as an internal set of rules, and when they are broken, the person feels they are bad. So anytime that a person goes against what they think, they tend to have feelings of guilt or remorse regarding their behavior. So the information about what someone knows, feels, and has been told can frame how they view people who exhibit particular behavior or behaviors. So these behaviors are often forbidden and lead to bad consequences, punishments, and feelings of guilt shame, and remorse. So, example, substance use, stealing, premarital sex, interreligious family, poverty, etc. So, any questions up to this point when we can do that? I can't hear him. Someone doesn't have their mute on. Not at all. I can only hear Phil. Reset and update Zoom. Try rejoining. It could be Phil's roommate. Just thinks background noise. Maybe he's making dinner. He's making dinner. He did that last time. What's for dinner? Oh, you guys can hear that? Yes. Oh, okay. It's loud. Yes. Shoot. Okay. Well, can't really control everything, guys. But nonetheless, any questions on any of this stuff? It's not too bad. Oh, no. Yeah, I didn't even know. But that's okay. No, no problem. All right. So let's get into the defense mechanisms. And after we do that, we'll do practice questions. Will I get a copy of this? Yes, it's cool. I can still understand you. Okay. Yeah. You guys will get a copy of the recording as well as the sheet. But lock and load, because the defense mechanisms can tend to be pretty hairy. But as you guys know, the amount of time doesn't really bother me. As long as you guys are willing to listen throughout it, we can do as long as it takes. So the defense mechanisms are psychological strategies that are unconsciously used to protect a person from anxiety arising from unacceptable thoughts or behaviors. So they are used to protect from fears as well as perceived harm. And keep in mind, perceived is fictitious. So oftentimes we may exhibit these based on previous behaviors, which could get us into quite a little bit of a hassle. But the id, ego, and superego are the main forces driving the specific strategy slash strategies, depending. So some people could use more than one, depending on these. So keep in mind that these are automatic, and people aren't just thinking, oh yeah, let's totally use a defense mechanism. So they're involuntary and usually unconscious. However, there are some, as we get further, they're called like the mature ones that you can exhibit and like actually realize that you're actually doing it. So reactions to reactions to unacceptable thoughts, urges, threats, and impulses from the awareness of fear, disapproval, punishment, or other negative behaviors. So there are different categorical ones. So primitive defense mechanisms are the first ones. And these are the ones that think of primitive, they're primary, so very, very basic. So they are often predicated on a mistake or inaccurate representation of social reality. So the person works to avoid short-term pain. Generally, it does not result in constructive outcomes. They are not much help for people looking for ways to solve a problem. So they are first learned during childhood and may persist into adulthood. They can help prevent someone from being harmed in a significant way during childhood. So, what are the actual defense mechanisms? One, denial. So, what is denial? It involves blocking external events from the person's awareness. If someone is in a situation and it is too much for them to handle, the person will refuse to experience it. So the way they can do it is outright refuse to admit or recognize something has occurred or is currently happening to them, or the person may accept responsibility yet minimize the impact it has on them. So, examples: someone who smokes cigarettes may refuse to admit that smoking is bad for their health, or cite random facts that justify their smoking. Another example: someone may say that they are still in a relationship even though it has ended because it makes them feel better about their situation. So, second defense mechanism reaction, formation. So the way that I have people remember this one is react in a different formation. So opposite of what you think and feel. So in this, unacceptable feelings are expressed as the opposite. In taking up the opposite feeling or feelings, impulse or impulses or behaviors are to avoid societal / social consequences. So examples that we see here would be a woman who is satisfied with her boss, wants to punch him in the face, will compliment him on how good of a boss he is. Another example. Phil dislikes when the boss continues to give him work, even though he is already stretched. Then, but tells his boss, "Thank you for everything you do for me." So feeling overwhelmed, wanting to react to it, but rather than snapping, saying, "Man, that's so nice of you. I'm really glad that you always look out for me." So third one, projection. And think of the word projector. So putting things from yourself onto other people. So within this, this is where we're attributing one's unacceptable behaviors, thoughts, and feelings onto someone else. So feeling or doing a particular behavior and seeking validation by assuming others do and feel the same way. So example here would be you hate someone and say, "Geez, that person just doesn't like me." Even though you're the one that doesn't like them. So feeling overwhelmed. So you're feeling overwhelmed and say, "Wow, you must be overwhelmed with everything you have going on." Even though you're the one that's feeling overwhelmed, you're like, "Wow, I should say that they're feeling overwhelmed so I don't have to feel as bad for saying I feel overwhelmed." Another example, cheating on a significant other and accusing them of cheating on you. So, fourth one is acting out. So, action over feelings. So, what does this look like? And this is where the individual will cope with stress by engaging in actions rather than reflecting on the feelings of the situation. So someone will ignore how they internally feel and express it through actions. So what does this look like? This would be someone who does not feel like going to school and they attempt suicide to show people they hate school and do not want to go. So if you can imagine, the action that they do is pretty exotic, but it would send a message to people like, wow, there's huge concern in this person's life. Or another reaction, when someone fails their ASWB exam, rather than reflecting on the process, they buy more study materials. So I'm sure that you've heard or seen people do that. They fail the exam and they're like, all right, what am I missing? Load it up. I need more materials. I need something. There's something out there that I'm not feeling and I'm not seeing, rather than saying, oh, this really sucks and I don't like feeling this way, but this is an essential part of the process. So the fifth one in the tail end of our primitives is regression. And think of regress. And the term regress is to go back. So this is when confronted with an undesirable situation, the person copes by reverting back to patterns of behavior used in earlier developmental processes. The person will begin to exhibit developmentally younger behaviors when faced with difficult situations. So an example here would be someone who has a severe childhood abuse history may react differently in the face of confrontation. When they get angry at someone, they will get into physical fights without any thought. So think about it. Kind of like younger developmentally is to react and use physical intervention to get needs met. So another example would be after the divorce of his parents, a 13-year-old wets his bed. So anyone that's 13 years old would not be wetting their beds, so they regress back to younger behavior. And when someone is sick, they will cling onto their significant other / caregiver, such as a baby would. So those are our primitive. So less primitive is when someone is more ambivalent towards reality principles. So reality is recognized here to a larger extent, even if it is put off or avoided. So the first one that we'll look at is repression. And this is where I tell people to think of it as push down or, yes, press down. So these are unconscious defense. So an unconscious process employed by the person to keep disturbing thoughts, experiences, or behaviors from becoming conscious. So these thoughts, experiences, and behaviors are often too much for the person to process at the given time. So examples here would be someone exhibits repression when they are afraid of dogs but cannot remember the reason why. So think of it as more of the unconscious mind type defense mechanism. Or someone may become anxious when entering into a particular social situation and not understand why it happens. Because it's repressed, because it's too painful or dangerous for them to acknowledge. So the next defense mechanism that we're looking at is displacement. And this is placing the emotions somewhere else. So taking out frustrations, anxiety, anger, impulses on people or objects that are viewed as less threatening. So, an example here is someone is mad at their girlfriend, so they yell at their young child. Another example, someone does not pass their ASWB exam, so when they get into their car, they punch the steering wheel. Third one, intellectualization. So, think intellect equals information. So this is when the person places overemphasis on thinking or gathering information when confronted with unacceptable impulse, situations, or behavior without employing any emotion. So rather than dealing with a painful thought, situation, or experience, a person will follow up what the heck? Here we go. Follow up or react by gathering information on or about the situation. So, examples here. A person was recently diagnosed with anxiety and they attempt to learn all about the symptoms / treatment rather than expressing their feelings by the diagnosis. Another example, a person copes with the recent death of a parent by researching the grief process. 4, rationalization. So what does this look like? Rational thinking, excuses for behavior. So this is going to be explaining unacceptable behavior/behaviors or feeling in a rational or logical manner and avoiding the true reasons for the behavior or thought. So said kind of in a different way, someone finds reasons for their thoughts or behaviors to be justifiable, to avoid being seen in a negative light. So the example here, someone loses a job and says, I did not want that job anymore anyway. They did me a favor. Example, someone gets turned down for a date and says, I had a lot going on anyway. Another quick example. Someone fails the ASWB exam and says, and thinks they're just trying to trick us. Number 5, undoing. So this is trying to do something to make up for bad behavior/thought. So what's going on here? So this is trying to make up for inappropriate / undesirable thoughts and behaviors that can cause isolation from the overall society. So example here, after cheating on your boyfriend/girlfriend, you buy them a video game to make up for it. Another example, the husband may do the dishes after insulting his wife to make up for it. So those are our less primitive, and then we walk into our mature defense mechanisms. So within this level, this is when someone has a healthy and conscious relationship with reality. So reality is accepted and even recognized when it is not appreciated. So uncomfortable feelings are deliberately transformed into less threatening ones rather than set aside, like in previous situations. So within that, the first one we're looking at is sublimation, and this is substitute. So substituting. Oops. Okay. So think of the word sub for substituting. So within this is substituting a negative behavior for a more positive behavior. Or said in a different way, substituting a positive behavior in place of a negative one. So within this, the person will act out unacceptable thoughts, feelings, or impulses in a more constructive or positive manner. So here, an example might be a man who has a lot of anger will start working out. Another may be someone who has a lot of impulse toward themselves, will hurt themselves, may paint a picture rather than cutting themselves. Someone will begin to cook food rather than beat their significant other. So just putting a different behavior within that to make it still express yourself and give yourself some time, but ultimately save you from catching a case. Because never a good move, bad moves. But next one, suppression. Think of the word silence. So to suppress is to silence. Oh no. Okay. So within this is voluntary / consciously avoiding the thought of a disturbing experience, emotion, feelings, or impulses temporarily. So they often revisit them. So being able to set aside experiences and operate in an effective manner. So when looking at this, a couple of examples here. So while taking the ASWB exam, the person is not thinking about the potential of losing their job, being homeless, or the amount of money it costs to prep. So another example would be a woman stays at work late to avoid fighting with her husband. Another example, someone may watch 8 hours of Netflix to distract themselves of all of the stress they are currently experiencing. They know it's there, they acknowledge it's there, but they just take away from it. So compensation would be the next one, and this is making yourself more appealing or compensated. So what does this look like? So this is overachieving in one area to make up for / compensate for shortcomings / failures in other areas. So being able to find strengths that work for you while ignoring the negative areas of your life. So a couple examples here. Someone who is not good at bookwork may put their energy into sporting, into athletic activities. Phil's not good at structural or organization, so he makes up for it by focusing on the content and delivery. Another example, husband works a lot so he can buy his wife whatever she would like to make up for the absence of time spent together. Fourth one, altruism. So, benefit for all. So, this is satisfying internal needs through helping others. So, helping others that are experiencing or suffering from similar feelings thoughts or experiences who are far less along in dealing with the dealing with them. The person helps others through their situation rather than confronting their own issues. So, example here, someone who was bullied as a child and they start an anti-bullying campaign to prevent others from experiencing it. Another example, someone who lost a friend to cancer starts an organization to spread information on how to lower the rates of cancer. So with this, the next one that we're looking at is internalization. Whoops. So this is when someone's internal changes. So with that, so this is when someone will take the opinions, values, and feedback from others and change their identity or self to conform to them. So this is when someone allows for others to influence them and they mold to the expectations of those around them. So an example here is someone tells a person that they are dumb and that they will never succeed in life. So regardless, whoops, keeps doing that. So regardless of what the person hears from others, they will always feel like they not good enough. Another example, someone is told that they will always suck at taking tests regardless of their ability to dominate tests. They feel like they will fail. So then we go through identification, and this is how identity changes to fit ideal role. So this is when you see something that you like and firmly believe in yourself to begin becoming that role. So when we see someone who exhibits characteristics that we like and we begin to act like that person. So we display particular traits that we value or find desirable. So an example here, someone likes Beyonce may start to dress and act like her. Another example, someone who has a close relative that is a social worker may become one to be just like them. There's two more, so bear with it, is interjection. So think of introduce into your life. So this is when someone will hear an idea and play it out in their life. They hear an ideal and act like it is what their future should be like. So, an example here would be to hear that you should not get into a pool 30 minutes after eating. So regardless of additional information, they carry it out throughout their life. Another one, a child hears that boys do not cry, and they start to play it out. Start to play it out as if it were true. And then the last topic or concept before we get into the practice questions is asceticism. Set into one's way. And this is when someone displays rigid behaviors based on ideology that they deem important. So basically, someone will be stuck in their ways regardless of contradictory information. So can be seen as severe discipline and avoidance of all forms of self-indulgence to accomplish a particular goal. So an example here, a person refuses to eat or sleep until a work project is done. Another example, not watching your favorite TV show to have more focus on passing your ASWB exam. So is there any questions on any of the content before we get into the questions? Okay. So the first question we have is a social worker at a nonprofit agency has been working with a 40-year-old male for 6 months. In the most recent session, he reports that he feels like his wife does not appreciate him, and whenever he's around her, has the urge to yell at her. However, instead, he will compliment her. Which defense mechanism best explains the man's behavior? A, sublimation, B, reaction formation, C, displacement, or D, projection. And when you have your answer, type the word sleep into the chat. And then after we get enough people, we will be able to open the polls up. Okay. All right, so let's open the polls. And those that have never done a poll, if it didn't open for you, look at the bottom panel where it says polls and click it, and it should be able to open up for you. Okay, feel free to take more time. Can't find the polls. So the poll would be at the bottom of your screen. And you just click it, and then it'll roll for you. Okay, so I'll give 20 more seconds. Okay. So the majority think it's B, some think it's A, some think it's C, and some think it is D. So let's see. So it's social worker at a nonprofit agency. Our client is a 40-year-old male that we've been seeing for 6 months. He feels that his wife does not appreciate him, and whenever he's around, has the urge to yell at her. However, instead will compliment him. And as we know, putting our feelings and actions onto someone else's projection, so that's not projection. Displacement is putting, well, expressing your emotions / impulses, wow, onto something less threatening. So it's not that one. Reaction formation is reacting in the opposite formation than you feel. So possibly. Remember, sublimation is substituting negative or positive behavior in place of a negative one. So it wouldn't be sublimation, and the answer here would be reaction formation. So the next question, social worker at a community mental health clinic has been working with a 26-year-old client for 4 months. During the most recent session, the client reports he believes his girlfriend has been cheating on him with multiple friends. He reports that he asked her about the cheating, but each time she denied cheating on him and told him to stop worrying about it. Upon further exploration, the social worker discovers the client has actually been cheating on the girlfriend the past 2 months. What defense mechanism has the boyfriend been using? And when you have your answer, type the word bamboozle into the chat because that would be exactly what would be happening. The boozlement would be heavy here. Being like, oh, wow, that's pretty strange. Bamboozled. Oh, you guys are lightning speed on the questions tonight. But that's okay. All right. So let's open the polls. And let's see what we're looking at. The boozle is heavy. Bamboozlement. Get you guys warmed up with the easier questions. And then the more difficult. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll give 20 more seconds. Okay. Okay. So the majority think it's D, some think it's B, and some think it's C. So social worker at a community health clinic. Client is a 26-year-old client. Length of time is 4 months. Client reports he believes his girlfriend's cheating. She denied cheating. Oops. And social worker finds out he's been cheating. So denial is not acknowledging an action or behavior. Displacement is putting your feelings onto something less threatening. Substituting positive behavior in place of a negative one. And then projection, putting your feelings and or actions onto someone else. Denial entirely out of there because not really denying anything, is kind of shifting. Sublimation is no question. So that means is it displacement or projection? So we're going to rule out displacement and say that it is projecting because dude is denying his end of it and then rolling it onto the girlfriend. So the next question, a social worker in a private clinic has been working with a 26-year-old female who engages in services due to conflicts at work with her colleagues. The woman reports feeling inferior at work and that she has been coping by visiting her parents' home more to receive comfort from them. What is the most likely reason for the client's current behavior? A, repression. B, regression. C, acting out. D, sublimation. When you have your answer, type one positive thing about yourself into the chat. So we have kind, smart, beautiful, musical, happy, kind, dog mom, a hype, outgoing, persistent, outspoken, a mother, blessed, sassy, genuine, peaceful, dedicated, hardworking, happy. And mine would be foolishly empowered. So the polls are open. So did anyone do anything fun this weekend? Studied. I don't know if that would technically be fun, would it be? CrossFit, working out. Okay. Binge Game of Thrones. That's a really, really good show. Personally, I have not watched it. Visit a Family, Game of Thrones. Did anyone watch the Ted Bundy tapes? Came across the question maybe practice. Birthday with my granddaughter. Oh, yes, I did. Dude, that is the craziest like assessing you can do on a human being is the Ted Bundy files, honestly. Like how he can finesse the entire country is mind blowing to me. I was like, whoa. I'm so it's insane. I know, dude. I often, when I was a kid, wanted to like assess a serial killer, but then I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not at that level of restraint. I'd be like, man, that's so totally wild. I didn't realize how often he. I know, dude escaped twice, and then for like 60 days. How do you escape for 60 days when you're ready to kill somebody? And then you practice in your cell. Okay. But we can continue this after I break down the question. That's how distractible I am today, guys. Date night with hubby making and decorating Valentine's cookies. Oh, that's how we do it. All right, so majority think it's B, some think it's D, some think it's A. Let's see. So social worker in a private clinic. So we're working with 26-year-old female. Read, Phil. Conflicts at work. So these are all supplemental. And she's been coping by visiting the parents' home. So repression is pressing down your feelings and not dealing with them. Regression, utilizing previous developmental soothing techniques. Acting out, not acknowledging the emotional side of a situation and only reacting through behavior. Sublimation is substituting a positive behavior in place of a negative one. So sublimation is probably feeling a little let down getting rolled out this many times, but that's just how we roll. And then acting out, yeah, she is kind of acting out and doing a behavior and not acknowledging the emotional side of it, but they are bigger fish that we can catch and feed the whole village in this one. So she's not really pressing anything down. So she's going back to what was developmentally soothing, such as going to your parents' house to get their support in soothing. So the correct answer here is regression. 4. Shout out to you guys for staying like hella long in the study group. I didn't realize how long we've been doing this, honestly. I get into teaching mode and I'm just like, this is what it's going to be. Okay. So the 4th question, a social worker at a family agency is completing an intake with a 42-year-old female who reports having relationship problems. The woman reports that her boyfriend has been getting frustrated with her spending habits and that at times it causes them to fall behind on bills. The woman reports that she has an admiration for Kylie Jenner and feels compelled to buy whatever she releases so she can be just like her. Which defense mechanism best explains the woman's behavior? Intellectualization, internalization, asceticism, introjection. And when you have your answer, type 1 struggle you're currently having. Test anxiety. Focusing, eating healthy, passing this test, exam, confidence. These mechanisms, passing the test, confidence, anxiety, test anxiety. Anxiety is a bugger. you know? Looks like a lot more people are struggling with that. Support, test anxiety, all of the above. Oh, confidence. You can't just do a catch-all. I have every struggle in the world possible. Test anxiety, staying focused. These are all things that can be easily moldable. My daughter will not let me put her down so I can study. Oh, okay. It's a little bit more of a barrier. Test anxiety. So how would one, like, is it a young child? Like a bouncy chair removable? No, eating healthy all day. Then when I get home, I eat cereal because it's delicious. Oh, she's 9 months. Oh, okay. Amanda, I'm in your boat all day long. Like, I have a peanut butter chocolate cake just chilling in my fridge, but I just went out to dinner with my family and had a sundae there. I was like, wow. As my roommate is out running like 7 miles. But different stroke, different folk. All depends what your goal is. Mine's gonna be eating that chocolate cake soon. And I know it. She's sleep regression. My goal after I pass is to start eating healthier. I cannot with this much stress. Are you a stress eater? I am. Well, biggest suggestion there, slow progress. In grad school, I gained 50 pounds. From Starbucks? Whoa. That's a lot of coffee. But healthy mind is a healthy body. So, biggest suggestion, don't give yourself access. Because honestly, you have a bag of Sour Patch Kids, that whole thing's gone. But I know not to have it around me because I know it's not a good time. But remember, your environment and how you feel in your environment is going to dictate the behaviors you exhibit. So if these are things we need to want to change, condone environments that are going to help you overcome your struggles. Like I know mine is time management, for real, for real. Like I'll mess around and say the study group's from 7 to 9 and it's already 9:30 and am unfazed. But this is what I like to do. So find stuff that you like to do instead. Planner, key to time it. Ooh, you should see my scheduling book. I have 3 different jobs, so I have to keep 3 different types of clients in line. So my planner is impeccable. The time I dedicate inside of those obligations is my problem. So the majority think it's C. No, the majority think it's D, some think it's B, and the outliers of A and C. So let's look. Social worker at a family agency completed an intake with a 42-year-old female. Relationship issues. Reports that her boyfriend has been frustrated with spending habits. And at times it can cause them to fall behind on bills. Yes, I did purposely make this person almost bipolar and manic. Shame on me. That she has an admiration for Kylie Jenner and feels like compelled to buy whatever she releases. So kind of being like her. And let's see, intellectualization, obtaining. Wow, if my hands wanted to work. Obtaining information about situations well, stressors in your life. So we'll rule that one out because she's not really obtaining information on anything of that facet. And internalization is when someone will take the opinion, values, and feedback from others and change their actions accordingly. Asceticism is having a rigor or set way of doing things. Introjection is when you want to change who and what you look at based on that. So this is when someone will hear an idea and play it out in their life. So with this, we have to just keep in mind what we're looking at. So, is this person having rigor and restrictive behavior? I'm not so fast. She's not. Why? She's expounding things that she currently may not have, as well as getting into bouts. So, with that, is she taking the feedback and values and critiques from other people and molding it to herself? Or is she taking the ideas and playing them out in her situation? Let's look. Touchdown. Introjection would be the correct one. Because internalization would be things where she was told that she may not be good enough, or regardless of what people say, she is going to just continue doing. If she was doing so, the feedback from her boyfriend would have been enough for her to mold on that. I told you guys, I was heating up the questions. That's what you heard in the kitchen was my roommate heating questions up. Just kidding. You too, I'm confused. I didn't even know you guys could hear, honestly. All right. I did make 6 questions. Do you guys want 5 or 6 questions, by the way? So, all right, that was a foolish question. But yeah, so the feedback she heard was from her boyfriend getting frustrated about her spending habits and telling her, "Hey, you should change these." And regardless of what she heard, she was ready to stick with that, which she molded and bended to it. 6 all. Okay, don't worry, I was playing it too anyway. So 5, a social worker at a family agency is working with a 50-year-old male who reports having feelings of depression. The man reports that his wife divorced him 3 months ago, and that he has not felt right since. The man reports that no one outside of his family knows about the divorce because he's been more productive at work. The man reports that without work, he would feel entirely useless. Which defense mechanism best explains this man's behavior or reaction to the divorce? So A, asceticism, B, compensation, C, sublimation, D, suppression. And when you have your answer, type 1 positive thing about someone in the chat. Funny, motivated, social workers, positive, can understand the struggle. Struggle stays real. But so do solutions. Everybody motivated is in this together. Hungry to learn, smart asses. Isn't that the truth? Supportive, intelligent, motivated, survivors, driven, motivated. Tired, preach, 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 preach. Patient, persistent. Remember to read these questions carefully, guys, because I do have a way of whipping out trick moves. Son of a boat of holes in the moon. You're all strong and have beautiful hearts. That was so kind. We're all so kind. And if you need more time, just type time into the chat. Okay. Let's break her down. So this is a question. We have a split between B, C, and D. But let's see. Let's demystify this beast. So social worker, family agency, 50-year-old male, depression. His wife divorced 3 months ago, and he's not felt right since. Pretty shook, actually. So the man reports that no one outside of his family knows about the divorce because he's been more productive at work. Because he's been more productive at work is going to be the driving factor. And that without work, he would feel entirely useless. So let's look. So asceticism is, remember, rigor or having a particular way of doing things. So that one is out. Compensation. So overachieving in one area to compensate for failures in other areas of life. Sublimation, substituting a positive behavior in place, a negative one. Suppression, avoiding the thought of feelings, wishes, problems, or experiences. Wow. Temporarily. So as you can imagine, C is going to be launched right out into the barracks. Pow, see you later. So then we're looking, is this guy overachieving in one area because he has failed in another area? Or is he avoiding the thought or feeling of something temporarily? Let's look. So he was divorced 3 months ago, and no one outside of his family knows because he's been more productive at work. So sounds like one area of his life had a deficit, and then he was supplementing in the other area to still make himself look good to everyone else. So the best answer here, you can imagine, is compensation. He was compensating in his work and professional life to supplement his downside in his relationships. Buster Brown, we booked him. So that is the correct answer there. Never second guess yourself. Just pull the trigger. But yeah, tricky, guys, isn't it? That one, I was like, they're going to hate me for that. But it's okay. Might as well throw a wrench in the cog. I was nervous for a minute. I know. The more this study group goes on, the wilder I get. The toughest ones help me to regain the best. I know. That's why I write these like difficult cats. So it's like, all right, let's look at it. So this is not our defense mechanisms. This is the psychosexual stages that we went in before prior. So you're going to have to really, really dig deep into the hole to remember. But let's look. Social worker in an outpatient clinic is working with a family and their 6-year-old son who has been waking up in the middle of the night to sleep with him. The mother reports that their son will not let her out of his sight. And when he cannot see her, he will scream at the top of his lungs. The boy reports that he does not understand why he becomes so frustrated, but he feels like someone is going to take his mother away from him. What psychosexual stage of development best describes the lad's behavior? Separation in the individuation stage, phallic stage, oral stage, latent stage. And when you have your answer, type one way that you've improved from joining the study groups. More motivated, more determined, slow down when reading, accountable, more confident. Visual and audio is a key. Set time on Sundays. Confident, slowing down, breaking down the question. This is my first time, but I think I'll feel prepared this time. Lacks anxiety, breaking down questions, being consistent with studying. So if I had to summarize this, people are more confident, they're more accountable, and they're more structured when they look at a question. And someone is taking it easy while studying. Is that possible? You can have fun while prepping. Just having a bit more confidence, and even I get something wrong and remember those things are the best, but mainly knowing that it's just a test and nothing to be scared of at the end of the day. Exactly. Like, honestly, if you, those have been rocking with me for a long time, you just might as well do it anyway. At the end of the day, just do it anyway. Because whether it goes successful or fails, at least you were in there. Oh, yeah, I didn't set up a poll yet, so I was just waiting. Like these study groups was manifested from me just doing it anyway. Like it was just a thing that I was like, wonder if people will join. 14 people came to the first one. Now we have grown to a community of people that are passing at astronomical levels and just are just being more proficient. It's insane. Like this past week, if I've kind of lost count, but I think there was like 20 people that passed this week. Is this every week or a few times a month? So this is every Sunday. This is every Sunday. Yeah, trust me. I mean, with it being my birthday week, I couldn't keep up with everybody, honestly. Like people were tagging and messaging and emailing, and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, because my goal for the year was to have 50 people pass. I think I'm just going to push it to 100, honestly. I think I'm going to try having 100 people pass. It's kind of a lofty goal, and you guys are the first ones to hear it, but I might as well do it anyway. What's the topic next week? So that'll be on the DSM-5, but we haven't really identified the disorder. So after we do all of this, we need to diagnose it. Oh, smokes. Let me see. It was awesome to see all those people passing. Oh, trust me, I was literally reflecting on life and saying, this is where you need to be. I want to be one of the 100 who pass. If I have 100 people pass, I'm literally just going to, I'm going to hang my hat up. I'm going to say like, wow. Wow. Because that will only be like, man, I can't even think about it, honestly. We do it all. Will you send us the notes? Yes, the notes will go out tonight. No, then you go and write the questions for the test. Holy audio. You must give us some tips to pass. Quit your job and go full time. I thought about it, but I love the university too much. All right, so let's break this down. And then I'll stop the recording. Then we can get into the question and answer. Social worker in an outpatient clinic is working with a family and her 6-year-old son who's been in the middle of the night to sleep with them. Mother reports son gets out of sight, cannot see her, will scream at the top of the lungs. Must need earplugs all the time. That'd be bad news. Does not understand. He just feels like something bad's going to happen to mom and she'll leave him. Separation individuation. Okay, Phil, let's just borrow concepts from other theories. That's not a good one. So then oral, remember 0 to 1. Phallic is the next phase, which is 3 to 6. And then latent, they're late to the party, so it's 6 to puberty. However, if you take anything from this, guys, ages don't really matter. It's the characteristics that they're exhibiting, because people can have late booms and late booms. So with that, it's instantly not going to be the oral, because that's the fixation on survival as well as fixations with getting pleasure from that. So that's not it. So then is it the phallic or the latent? And remember, in the latent phase, so when the libido is turned off and they are trying to gather social interactions with that. Isn't anal right after oral? Yes, it is. No. So the age for anal is 1 to 3. Yes, nonetheless. So the answer here is going to be phallic because remember, the phallic has the Oedipus complex where the boy is afraid and wants to be with mom. And when she's gone, gets kind of distressed, rattled up, perplexed, and loses his skull. So any questions on any of the questions before I stop the recording, compile it, then we do the question and answer. And I'm sorry for doing a 3-hour study group, honestly. I did not mean for it. Getting answers this week. I got 4 to 6. Good. I get it now. All right. So I'm going to, does anyone want any clarifications on any content? And if you don't, just say no, so that way I can stop the recording. No. Okay. So I'm just going to stop it then.